Welcome to the Artistry in Life podcast, Navigating Towards Happiness. I'm your host, Ray, and with me, I have life practitioner and coach, Marking. What's going on, Marking?
Hey, how you doing, bro?
Good, man. So last episode, we talked about mindset, right? We talked about like how our parents told us what to do, go to school, get good grades, so you get into a good college, and then you work 40 hours a week, 40 years of your life. That's where we're going to find happiness, right?
Right.
So, right?
Yeah.
So in this episode, we're going to talk about communicating with ourselves, self-talk.
In the last episode, we talked about mindset, and we just really scratched the surface, right?
Yes.
So the intention now for this episode is to really talk at a deeper level about what mindset is. And being self-aware, that means you are being self-aware of how you talk to yourself. You're being aware of the energy behind the words that we use in talking to ourselves. We get to understand language and the power of those words and how they affect our ways of being. We also get to take a look at where these thoughts and voices that we have in our head, where they're coming from, where the source of that is coming from. And then once we get an understanding of all those different things, those different components of being self-aware, then we also get to understand the power of choice, because I think a lot of us, we take choice for granted, and we can go deeper into that. Then we break this down a little bit more bite-sized pieces, and yeah, we talk about communication and self-talk.
Looking in the mirror and telling myself I'm happy or I'm sad, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how does one identify that? Because if I'm going to work every day, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, I'm telling myself I'm happy, I love my job, and then when I get there, I'm miserable. So am I lying to myself? Or what do I need to do to try to snap out of that mode of self-talk?
Right. And this is the first step in being self-aware, like being able to look into the mirror and have this smiley face of like everything's going to be hunky-dory, and then go to work and then you're miserable. Like, you really get to check in with that mirror and be honest with yourself. Am I truly happy, or there's this saying, you can lie to me, but don't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And you get to really hone in on how it is that you feel. And if you're feeling some sort of negative energy, you're probably lying to yourself. So being able to identify that is huge in being self-aware, understanding that, wow, my self-talk is not what I think it really is. So here's the thing, this is all communication with self, right? To me, I believe that the success and failure of any relationship, whether it's with our parents, with our spouses, with our siblings, with our coworkers, with whoever it is that we have a relationship, the success or failure in that relationship is very dependent on how well we communicate with each other. But more importantly, if we're able to have a better understanding of how we communicate with ourselves, that's where the real juice is, right? Like, if I understand what it is that how I think, what I think and how I feel dictates what I say or do. If I'm self-aware about those things energetically, understanding the language, the words, the tonality of it, and understanding what the source of some of these thoughts and voices that I have in my head, when I start to have a better understanding of that, now I have new information, and I can make a very impactful decision or choice on what I want to do or say next.
How does one talk to themselves? I mean, I don't know of too many people that stand in front of the mirror and start talking to themselves. Usually you hear the voice in your head when you're washing dishes or driving a car or things like that, right? Or even at work when you're supposed to do something, but you're not thinking about work. You're actually thinking about something else, or maybe something in the past that your parents told you to do or something like that. And it kind of dictates what you do in life today. So how does one kind of enter into that, scratch the surface of self-talk?
It's as simple as, you know what, today I'm going to monitor how I'm talking to myself, right? I can look in the mirror and say, today I'm going to monitor how I'm thinking or how I'm talking to myself. and then start to note what those thoughts are. What's the energy behind those? What are the words I'm using? What are how's the language that I'm using in my self-talk? Start to be aware of those things, and then you can start to go deeper into start to peel back layers in being more self-aware and being more intentional about how you speak to yourself. So, let's talk about energy, right? I think we take energy for granted. We know about energy. We talk about energy. We actually feel it, but I don't think that we really understand that energy is something that is part of our communication, right? If I just sit here and just kind of like look at you like this, I don't even have to say anything, but you could feel the energy, right?
You're mean. You're
So,
mad at me for some reason.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell, right? That's a transference of energy.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's even more impactful when you have words behind it. Like energy is you ever go into a room and then all of a sudden you feel like, oh wow, these people were just talking about me.
That's not
right?
paranoia.
It may be paranoia, but what you're sensing is that energy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So energy is a very real thing. What energy also is these things that we're feeling. And let me rephrase this. So feelings that we have are labels for what the emotions that we experience, right? And what emotions really are is energy in motion.
Energy in motion.
Energy in motion. So let's give an example again. I may feel love towards an individual. These are that would be the label, the feeling that I'm having.
Mhm.
The emotion that I have is that joy, that caring, and that's energetic. That's the energetic feeling that I have, and that's energy that's in motion. That's a reciprocated energy, or it's a transference of energy, a cycle of energy. There's a torus of energy that we're exchanging with each other. So that's the importance of understanding in understanding energy. How energy also plays into the words. You have a background in writing, right?
Yes.
So when you write, do words matter? Do you select specific words,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah. It dictates who the character that I'm
Mhm.
writing about.
Right, right. Does how that character, when you write for that character, how that character talks, what the words that character uses, and how that character uses those words, and the tonality, is that important in your writing?
Very important because it dictates the emotions that I want the audience to feel.
Exactly. You're
Yeah.
trying to elicit an emotion because
Yes.
these words have energy. The tonality has energy, and you're trying to elicit these feelings for your audience to feel, and your character to feel as well. Why is it any different when we have our self-talk, right?
Okay. I get it now.
Energy, there's the words that we use for our self-talk has energy. So if I'm constantly talking about how depressed I am, there's a heavy energy around that. It's a sad energy. So if I'm circulating that energy around in my ways of being and how I talk and how I project that out into the world, then guess what? You're going to just attract more of that negative energy, and you're going to
Yeah.
find yourself in a cycle of depression and sadness, frustration, just getting fed up and getting sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? So if that's true, in that case, then the adverse is true as well. If I'm talking about words of encouragement, words of empowerment, words of love, words of joy, these are all these are words that have energy behind that, positive energy. And if I'm continuing to talk and start resonating those types of energies and circulating those types of energies and transferring these energies to other people, then I'm creating a torus for myself of positive energy. And then that's how we can start to really at least one of the steps in really starting to get yourself out of a rabbit hole of depression or sadness or whatever the case may be.
So that being said, one should write what they feel in a journal.
That is definitely one of the tools that I use. It's interesting that you use that because a lot of our ways of being, there's energy that's stored up in there that of maybe some frustration. And let's say it's a frustration with a relationship that you have, or you're going through a breakup. There may be residual resentments or hurt or anger that hasn't been able to release in any kind of way. You haven't found a way to release any of that energy. So one of the suggestions that I use is really just writing a fuck you letter in a journal. You may write it out like a dear John, fuck you because you did this and this. I hate you because of this and this and this. You never send it, but it's an opportunity for you to write these things out and put words on what these things that you're feeling, and then start to move that energy out of you to release it.
So yeah, to get the negative energy out
Get
of
that
my
negative,
body.
yeah. Otherwise, it's just staying in there, and it just starts to get really toxic. And if it's in there for a while, and those toxic energies can really start to damage a person, not just mentally and emotionally, but sometimes physically. That your body starts to get inflamed, and that can present itself as allergies or cancers or heart attacks, or like if you're not self-aware in how you're communicating yourself, and you continue down that rabbit hole and being programmed in that way, it can get you into a pretty bad place.
So self-talk of depression, of like just being mad at myself every day, or like, why am I doing this? Why me? Why me? Why me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I'm all in this big hole of depression. And
exactly.
Yeah. And trying to get out of that would be my own self-talk of trying to flip the script of being depressed and trying to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So how does one create that happiness, to try to find happiness for themselves?
Right. So again, I'll bring it back to just being self-aware. Start with monitoring how it is that you are speaking with yourself. Is understanding where that energy is coming from, what words you're using, what's the tonality of the language that you're using in your self-talk, and then understanding what the sources are of those thoughts and those voices. That part we may go into a little bit. We'll go a little bit deeper into in the next episode. But if you at least start to be aware of energetically how you're talking to yourself, and understanding the words that you're choosing to talk to yourself, going down that path is the first step that you get to do. And then you also get to understand too, like, this is not a quick fix. This is a process. This is a journey. This is why I call myself a practitioner, because the stuff that we're introducing to everybody, these are tools that you can practice with, and you have to practice it on a continual basis. You get to be self-aware about these things and catch yourself, and then make the adjustment right there on the spot. And that takes time. We're in some cases, we're talking about decades of programming, old programming that we have to work through. Like, you can't change that overnight. It took you 10, 20 years to get you to this depressive state. It's going to take you, some time to get through that and work through that, and unlearn a lot of bad behaviors, unlearn a lot of toxic behaviors and patterns, and reprogram yourself, and help you get on a path towards happiness.
We just kind of scratch the surface and go into a little bit about what you just said regarding, you said like we've been programmed for like 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
It could be our parents, or, just mentors that we've had, or uncles and aunts or whatever, right? Especially in the Filipino community, our parents have been telling us, do this, do that, and you'll be happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're supposed to do. So it's like there's no leeway to move beyond that. So how does one kind of break that? Because it's like years and years of self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
Then you realize it's your parents talking to you in your
Mm-hmm.
head.
Right. I mean, and it's not just our parents, it could be church, it could be society in general, it could be our teachers, it could be school, it could be the education system in general, it could be, our coworkers, it could be even law enforcement or politics. All that informs our programming. And if we're not self-aware about how that's affecting us, then that's how we get into that programming and that old programming. And what we get to do in this work is identify how we think and what we think and how we think. We get to be self-aware of those things and understand how those things dictate what we say and what we do.
So, I'm a kind of a quotes guy. I don't quote a lot of things, but I like putting quotes up on my walls and
Mhm,
on my phone and things like that. IG is a great place to see quotes,
mhm,
so I do know that I have a couple of quotes in front of me here. Winners never quit, quitters never win.
mhm,
So
mhm,
putting up quotes or writing it down,
mhm.
that helps with self-talk, correct?
Sure, absolutely. I love quotes and I use quotes all the time. I think they're very helpful because it does help you to challenge the ways you are thinking. And anytime you get to practice those opportunities where you are able to look at how you're talking, again, you're setting yourself up for success and moving in the right direction. It's just being more specific in being self-aware. Again, understanding and monitoring your self-talk, understanding the energy behind how you're talking to yourself, and really start to pick and choose the words that you're using when you're talking to yourself. An example of that would be, you know, get to versus have to. This is another thing I like to share with my clients. You know, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work. I'm blessed to get to go to work. I don't have to make this phone call. No, I get to make this phone call because you know why? I have a phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get to do that. I'm blessed to do these things. I have to walk over to the grocery store. No, I get to walk to the grocery store. I got two healthy legs. I get to walk to the grocery store. Like these are little things and shift in how we use words, but they can have a huge difference in how we perceive things and how we move through life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if you look in the mirror, basically identify that you're sad and try to gradually change the way you think about yourself and
Yeah, I
what you
think we
tell
talked.
yourself.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in one of the previous episodes about reframing to reclaim your power.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another way. That's a tool that you use in your self talk. You're reframing how you view something for yourself and taking your power back and articulating in a way that's in your alignment.
All right, man. I don't want to go too deep into this topic because we got other episodes, we got other topics we could talk about.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, I think so. I think that was good, right? We talked about energy. Actually, we talked about being self-aware and self-talk. We talked
yeah,
about the communication in the sense of understanding the energy behind our self-talk, and we talked about the choosing words, language, how we're talking to self, being self-aware about
yeah.
that. Yeah, I think in the later episodes we can talk deeper into, you know, these thoughts and these voices that we have. What are the sources of those? And that's going to be a juicy one right there. And then once we have an understanding of all these things, then we can talk about the power of choice, which is another juicy one as well.
We did talk about energy today
We did.
in this episode. So
Yeah.
what kind of energy? What's the quote you want to put out today in this
Mm,
for this episode?
you know what? Pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice.
Man.
Is that a who dang?
That's a who dang, man.
That's a who dang right there. Right? That's deep, bro. That's
That's
deep.
deep. That's deep. All right, man. So how does one get a hold of you?
You can contact me on Instagram at Artistry and Life, or you can hit up my website at artistryandlife.com. we'll have that in the show notes. But those are two ways that you can get a hold of me for sure.
All right. I just want to thank you again for coming on the podcast.
Mhm.
And audience, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.
Mhm.
Thanks for listening to Artistry in Life, Navigating Your Happiness.
Thanks,
Navigating
Ray.
towards happiness.
There you go. Thanks, Ray. Thanks,
All right,
everybody.
man.